Greetings, folks, and welcome to the Electromaker podcast. This is your audio version of our midweek roundup of all things Maker and Embedded and Lovely. Although this week it is being launched slightly later than midweek, it turns out traveling from one country to another with your recording rig and then traveling back again is a hotbed for technical issues, and I've had to re-record pretty much this entire show. But yes, this is quite an interesting one. Nordic Semiconductor, sort of out of nowhere, just dropped the news that the NRF54 series will be coming, and it looks frankly kind of crazy. Really insane multiple cores doing different things on the system on chip, and of course doing all the Bluetooth Low Energy stuff you come to expect from Nordic. They're known as the Bluetooth Low Energy people for a reason. There's a reason it took them so long to bring out a Wi-Fi IC, because it had to fit into the thing that they'd established as the low energy connectivity people, as it were. We're also going to take a look at the themes plug, and I actually got sent one of these. Unfortunately, I think I mentioned this in the video, they sent me one which is the wrong voltage, sadly. So I haven't been able to try it out for myself, which is a real shame, because this is a plug for DIYers. It looks like a very professional plug. It looks like a smart plug you could buy for any one given system, for your Alexa, for your Google Home system, but it is for us. It is MQTT. And I would have loved to mess around with my hobby MQTT server I have running in the corner of this room that isn't doing much at the minute, to be honest. Sadly, I couldn't actually get hands-on with it. Anyway, rather than talk about the stuff that you're about to hear in the show, I'm going to pass you over to other Ian. If this is the first time you're listening to this podcast, it might seem a bit odd, and that is because the audio from this is taken from a YouTube series called the Electromaker Show that I record every week. I introduce the podcast, and I do give context where it's absolutely necessary, but for the most part, this is a visual medium converted to audio. I'll also say at the start here that we have no sponsors on the podcast, and we don't take donations or any of those things. We don't have a Patreon. But Electromaker does have a shop. So at electromaker.io/shop, you can find everything from hobby kits for Raspberry Pi and Arduino through to quite serious industry stuff. So regardless of what you are looking to get, whether it's for yourself or as a gift or for your work, please do check out the Electromaker store. It is the best way you can support us. And with all of that rambling at the start, let's actually get on with the show. We're going to begin this week's show with the news that Nordic is introducing a new line of Bluetooth Low Energy system on chips. We talked about the NRF53 XXX series for a while. The NRF5340 has been the flagship chip from Nordic for a while. Powerful, but Bluetooth Low Energy does all the bits. We talked about it quite a lot over the time that we've been doing this show. And so it's kind of exciting that the next set of chips, the NRF54, are coming, and one of them has already been announced, sort of. Now, I say sort of because the announcement does actually just talk about the NRF54 series, but it specifically talks about the NRF54H20, and that does have a product page on the Nordic Semiconductor site. However, you can only get it for samples right now, and I imagine when it says you can only get it for samples, we're talking about industry-level samples where you want to get 100 or 1,000 of them to pass out to your employees to get the hang of, so they can get a head start on making stuff with them. I don't see the chances of me getting my hands on any of these things until there's any kind of development kit out there. But as soon as there is, I'm going to be getting a hold of one, because there's a few things about this that I find interesting. In that annoying way that I find it interesting that from my perspective and my experience, I don't really know what to do with, but if I was an engineer, I feel like I'd be kind of excited about it. So let's dig through what information there is already just a little bit. So as it says here, it's the first system on chip with the NRF54H. So this is a series. The NRF54H is going to be a series of chips from the NRF54 line. It's a compact, ultra-low power system on chip with superior processing power, a generous amount of memory, that's new, and excellent efficiency. Now, most of that is stuff that we know about before. But as it says, it reduces design size, replaces multiple components with a highly integrated system on chip requiring minimal external components. There, it's talking about the fact that now it has non-volatile memory and RAM on board. In this case, in this variant, 2 megabytes of non-volatile memory and 1 megabyte of RAM. It also has some new peripherals: high-speed USB, CAN FD controller, 2 iCubed-C, and a 14-bit ADC. Now, here's the thing that I find really interesting. Multiple ARM Cortex-M33 processors clocked up to 320 megahertz and multiple RISC-V co-processors. Now, here and in the news broadcasty thing that they have with it, which I'm not going to link because if you'd like to find that, all you need to do is scroll down to here, click on news, and then it shows you a pop-up of the potential news thing, and then you can click the full news release from there, which is what we're looking at just there. In this press release, again, it doesn't say what they're for. It has exactly the same thing in a paragraph just here. It boasts multiple ARM Cortex-M33 processors and multiple RISC-V core processors. The processors are clocked up to 320 megahertz, and each processor is optimized for a specific type of workload. So there's a bit more of a clue, I think. Because, yeah, ARM Cortex-M33 processors clocked up to 320 megahertz are going to be able to do a lot. We already know from Nordic's line of stuff that they have right now that it works quite nicely with edge AI tasks already. When I was at Embedded World, I was shown in real time how you can use one of their other thingy devices, the thingy, I'm terrible with numbers, the 53, I think it is. I think it's a thingy 53, to gather data, and then you can send that via Bluetooth to a phone, to the cloud, to Edge Impulse, then deploy the model back on the thing, and it took minutes. It was wild. This is going to be able to do a lot more than that. However, you don't necessarily want your power-hungry main chip doing everything all of the time, and that is why you get a lot of chips these days which have a smaller chip on the side for doing lower power things. Multiple ARM Cortex-M33 processors and multiple RISC-V core processors make me think there's going to be levels of power usage and levels of ability that these things can pack into one little chip. Again, I'm completely guessing here, but maybe you have a RISC-V chip that is hardly ticking over at all, using almost no power whatsoever. All it does is just every now and again check a sensor to see if that sensor has been triggered. Maybe that sensor is a PIR sensor, like we gave away earlier in this episode. And then that wakes up the behemoth, that wakes up the bigger one that gets an image and does some edge AI stuff on that image and maybe sends stuff over Bluetooth to another device, and the list goes on. So that's something that I found sort of interesting from a non-engineer's point of view, just sort of guessing at what that might mean. Another part that sounds exciting, although I will admit is a little bit above me, is they're talking about the extending the ultra-low power wireless capabilities of the entire chip line. So, for example, it's saying that the NRF54 H20 is the first in the world to offer a minus 100 decibel millivolt RX sensitivity when receiving a 1 megabit Bluetooth low energy signal, combined with a 10 decibel millivolt transmission power, TX power. That means it offers an ample link budget for enhanced robustness and longer range. I'll be the first to admit that I have no idea what that means. I hope that's good. Maybe you can tell me in the comment section of this video if that is good or not. I'm going to leave it at that for now. As I mentioned, this sort of snuck up on me. I didn't have any previous knowledge about the NRF54 announcement until it came out. I'm looking forward to, I think for me, it will make more sense when there is a development board version of it I can look at. There's a few examples out there, and maybe there's been a bit of time for people to get their hands on them and talk about what makes this so much better than the original set of NRF53 chips that we've had out there for a while. As I mentioned at the start of this section, the NRF5340 is their flagship chip, system on chip. And there's a reason why Nordic low-power Bluetooth devices are so widely used. Again, it's something that I've said in the past, which is for something that is so high level and designed for, well, so low level in a way and designed for working with engineers and within the industry, I've always found Nordic things a little bit easier to get off the ground and start working with than others. I know not everyone feels that way, but for me, as a hobbyist, I've actually been able to get Nordic boards to do a lot more than similarly professional grade stuff. Your mileage may vary. Anyway, the NRF54 is here. If you'd like to know more about it, head to the link in the description. Please do let me know what you think of it. Is this a big step forward, or am I getting excited about nothing? Up next, we're going to take a very quick look at the Things plug. Now, I have it here in my hand, and in theory, this is the kind of thing that I really, really like. This is a properly boxed up product that looks like your average smart plug, but it's designed for DIYers. It's aimed at people that want to make their own smart home setup, specifically using the MQTT protocol. And I would have loved to make this a long section where I show you setting it up and using it with the Eclipse Mosquito setup by having a Raspberry Pi in the corner that's doing pretty much nothing and has done for a long time, but it is set up there. Unfortunately, this is the wrong plug type and the wrong power rating, and even if I tried to make a converter and plug this into the wall, it would explode. So instead, we're going to talk about it briefly and look at what I could have done with it and why you might be interested in it too. So what is the Things plug in essence? Well, first things first, it is the Things plug. I'm not mispronouncing that. That's the name of the company. You've probably heard of Things before, though, I imagine. I know Andreas Spiess did a video on their gateway box a little while ago, which is essentially a similar idea to this, although this is a slightly more compact all-in-one device in a way. But yes, unsurprisingly, this is a smart plug, so it connects to your Wi-Fi, but it also connects to your MQTT broker, and that's how you can control the output of the plug just here. But it's also got an energy monitor on it as well, So far, so normal smart plug. However, things get interesting when you take into account the fact that it can work with Bluetooth low energy sensors. So you can have any amount of Bluetooth low energy sensors in the local area that will transmit their data to here. That data will be translated to things that your MQTT broker can understand natively, and it will send it to it. Now, unfortunately, I would have loved to test this, but as I mentioned, it's the wrong kind of plug, so I can't actually do that. It's doubly ironic given that one of the only projects that I have from the past that is still just set up and ready to go is the Raspberry Pi with the Mosquito broker, MQTT broker set up on it. I wrote a tutorial on that many moons ago, getting started with MQTT on the Raspberry Pi, it would have been really fun to mess with that. However, we can glean a little bit from looking at the information that Things have put on their site about it. Now, I will link the plug itself in the description. You can find it for $40, which seems very reasonable. However, I don't know anything about any of the competition, so I don't know. Like I say, I wish I could say more about it. I just haven't been able to actually have any hands-on time to play with it. And it uses the Open MQTT gateway, which is something that you can put on a bunch of different microcontrollers and all this kind of stuff. But as it says here, this is the first ready-to-go device which is flashed with it already, and it is, as it says, BLE to MQTT gateway with tens of Bluetooth devices supported thanks to the Things decoder library. I think when this copy was written, it was early on in its release, because if you look at the amount of things that it covers now, maybe that is tens, fair enough. These are compatible devices. I imagine there are going to be many, many more added, although I'm not actually sure. Presence detection is something that I find kind of interesting. It looks like there are presence detection sensors that you can use with it as well. As with all of these things, I guess it's down to whether you use any of the sensors already that work with it. I don't know if that's something that's going to be expanded or not. That's something that you'd have to contact Things about before purchasing it. Although, as mentioned, here we go. As mentioned, Andreas Spies has covered a few of their different things in the past before. There are a few other people as well. Priceless Toolkit has done a video on it, and so have Tech Minds. So, if you are interested in finding out more about the Things plug, I will leave a link to the shop page in the description, simply because from there you can head through to the Open MQTT gateway page, and this along the top here is where I found absolutely everything else. You can scroll down here to find all of the different things I just talked about, and you can see the devices that are supported and all of the different sensors that are supported from links from this page as well. But yes, as someone who has messed around with MQTT a bit, I am nowhere near as good at it as some of the people who I know watch these videos. I've had some really interesting comments over the years about people who have their own completely from scratch MQTT setups at home. Is this something that you would find particularly useful? Is it something that you would see yourself using? To me, it seems like the perfect bridge between a solid consumer device, so we're not sticking forks in the wall and making our own devices that may or may not kill us or burn down our houses, and a nicely DIY setup on the other side, whether you're using something like Home Assistant or, got your own MQTT broker. What do you think of this thing? Just a quick note, if you are enjoying the Electromaker Show, it would be highly appreciated if you could click the subscribe button to subscribe to our channel, if you could click the like button on this video, because yes, YouTube is asking for likes is annoying, but YouTube takes note of those likes and then recommends it to other people who like things that are sort of like us. And if you click the little drop-down menu next to subscribe and choose all notifications, it means you will get a notification in the top right corner of YouTube in the browser, and the app as well, I believe, just when we upload a video. This isn't going to start giving you notifications on your phone and boops everywhere. It's just if you're someone like me who has a huge number of YouTube subscriptions that's very hard to keep an eye on. I use subscriptions more like a library of stuff I might want to watch, and I use my notifications as things that I know I want to watch when it is updated. If you feel that way about this show, that's what YouTube notifications are for. However, that is all ephemeral YouTube stuff, kind of nonsense really. If you do want to support us in a concrete way, we don't actually have any adverts on our videos. If you've seen an advert on this video, that money's going to YouTube, but we do have an online store. So if you go to electromaker.io/shop, you'll find everything from hobby kits for Arduino and Raspberry Pi, right up to quite serious industry level componentry, and we have a fairly good stock of everything at the minute. We are not immune to the shortages that everybody faces, but we're doing all right. So if you are thinking of getting anything from a gift through to something that you require for work, or just that one component you need for your next hobby project, consider checking out Electromaker. All right, thank you for your patience during this whole asking for YouTube, what's it called? When you do things with YouTube people? Thank you for your patience while I ask you to do things on YouTube and go to our shop. Let's get back to the show. Engagement, that's the word. YouTube engagement. Oh, I'm a terrible YouTuber. It is now time for a very quick funding website things, and we are returning to CrowdSupply and to a very familiar name. Those of you that have been watching this show for some time will know that we've covered the Inkplates in quite a lot of detail, because at the time they were one of the only e-paper displays that were easy to program and had a good software library and worked with an ESP32, which is of course the processor everybody loves. Since then, there's a load of them that have appeared, but throughout all of this, Inkplate have been working to make both their user experience better and to make new and interesting products. And they're back again, this time with the Inkplate 5. Now, this is a pre-launch project. As you can see, there's no price for this yet. There's no idea exactly when it's going to be coming, but Inkplate are pretty good. They announce a product, they make the product gets funded, and the product goes out, as far as I can tell. There hasn't been much slowdown in the way that they do things, which is kind of incredible when you think about the climate that we're in at the moment. So, if you would like to know more about Inkplate in general, they actually have a link to Inkplate Family, which just shows all of the different things that they've put out on CrowdSupply, all of which got funded. The only thing here that is missing is the Inkplate 5, of course, which is coming soon, which is what we're talking about right now. This one's kind of interesting because I think I talked about this some time ago without even realizing it was the same company that was making it, the Maker LED display. Anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent. If you are completely unfamiliar with the Inkplate line, they are e-paper displays. Some of them were cast-off Amazon Kindle displays. I don't know if that's always the case, but I know that some of them were. And essentially, it's an e-paper display on the front, on a PCB, and on the back you have an ESP32 and a bunch of quality of life things. There's a space for a real-time clock battery. There is a micro SD card slot. There's a power switch, and it is programmable via USB-C. There's a few other goodies here as well, and a bunch of possible places that you can expand this by soldering things to it, maybe adding it to a different PCB, maybe putting it in an enclosure with some plugs that can go in and out of it. And there is also a space here for attaching a battery. As it says here, it only needs 18 milliamps in low power mode, so it can last for months with a single Li-on battery. Now, I'm not all that familiar with the speed of current e-paper display refresh rates, but 1 second for a full refresh and even faster than that for a partial refresh, it seems plenty fast enough for me. I'm not looking to watch films on this thing. This would be something that I would use maybe as a kind of smart home display. I've been meaning to set up an Inkplate or something similar as a sort of a shopping list that shows what's in the Google Keep that we use as our shopping list for the house. I just haven't got round to that yet because I spend more time talking about this stuff than I do actually fiddling with it. But yes, one of the things about Inkplate that is great is that over the years that they've been doing it, they had the chance to really refine the libraries that they use. They have an Arduino library, which is the one that I'm familiar with, which is very easy to get up and running. Essentially, it's like any other Arduino library. You import the library, you follow the instructions to get the board talking to the computer, and from there, it's pretty much like programming any other board. But I've never programmed a display that was kind of as simple as the way that they were showing to do it. Now, if you want to get really into the weeds, you can program this however you want. At the end of the day, this is a board with an ESP32 on it and a display, and it is well documented enough that you could pretty much spin this up from scratch and get it working the way you want to. On the other end of the scale, if you're more familiar with something like Python, they now have a MicroPython module as well. In fact, it's been around for a while, but as far as I understand, it's completely feature rich now. So the specs are here. It is a 5.2-inch e-paper display, 540 by 960, onboard ESP32 with a micro SD card reader and a few things that I've already mentioned as well. There's also optional prefabricated enclosures, which I've had in my hands before, and they feel quite sturdy. I haven't been able to work out whether they are manufactured or 3D printed, which is also manufacturing. Yes, you can also get a Li-on battery with it if you would like your own lithium battery shipped with it, or you can, of course, use one that you have at home. I've had fundamentally a good experience with Solder, two of the people that make these. They've sent them to us to give away as prizes in the past, which is very nice of them because I think they're quite a small company. And if you would like to know more about it, you can sign up in the box here to find out more. Every one of the Inkplates has always reached its funding goal, and they've always delivered them quite quickly, which is why I like giving them the support when they put something new out. They seem like a genuinely good small team that have picked something and are doing it well. Now, on our last show, I talked about the product of the week, which was this PIR motion sensor. It is an Adafruit module designed to be easy to use, and I remember mentioning at the time that PIR sensors are somewhat underrated things, in my opinion, because, if you need a wide field of view just to tell you if there is movement in a space, they're incredibly low power, they're incredibly reliable, and there's a few hardware changes you can make on them to calibrate them without having to do too much in software. They're really useful things. That is obviously still on our blog, and you can head to to the link in the description if you'd like to find out more and watch the fantastic video that our in-house gadget guru Robert Mitchell made on it. And yeah, Robin is an engineer, unlike me, and so when he speaks about things, he speaks about them with a little more authority than someone who's just being enthusiastic in an attic like myself. But yes, I also started last week a competition to win the very PIR motion sensor he was talking about in this video, and it is time to announce the winner. And the winner this time is Pixel Waster, who says the PIR sensor would be just the thing to wake up a servo skull when someone walks into the room. I've got enough bits to decorate a skull, now I just need a skull, shovel, or Amazon. Clearly Amazon. That said, firm favourite of Electromaker, Emily's Electric Oddities, does have one of the videos in her fantastic collection of videos about how to take animal skulls and clean them up to use in craft projects. Maybe a little bit gruesome to some people, but yeah, actually a very interesting video. Anyway, that's a weird aside. Pixel Waster, congratulations. We'll be in touch as to how we can get this PIR sensing module out to you, and yes, there will be more products of the weeks and more competitions coming up soon. We're going to close out this week's show by talking about the IndyDroid Nova. Now, on the surface, the IndyDroid Nova is a Raspberry Pi 4 form factor board, which is supposed to be a lot more powerful than the Raspberry Pi 4. And it is. It's also more expensive than the Raspberry Pi 4. However, we've heard this story many times before. In fact, IndyDroid themselves have been guilty of something that is an issue, which is selling componentry that is designed and made in China to a Western market with no documentation in English, not even any images that are designed specifically for that board. To their credit, IndyDroid have really changed the way that they do things, and they now have English user manuals along with various different forms of Linux and Android that you can flash to their boards. But rather than hear it from me and me talk all about this, I'm going to do what I usually do when it comes to a new SBC and say you should definitely go and watch the ETA Prime video about it. Yes, as always, ETA Prime is one of the go-to people when it comes to anything to do with SBCs. Not only because he has a very wide knowledge of the entire market for quite a while now, but the ways that he tests them I find to be actually more useful in some ways than just raw benchmarks. Now, of course, if you're an engineer and you know exactly what you're looking for, then you need raw benchmark sheets. But the fact that ETA Prime shows you getting a board out, getting it up and running, trying it with Linux, trying it with Android, and then crucially trying it with some intensive tasks like retro gaming, or like, as you'll see later, Minecraft, which is a surprisingly intensive thing to run on an SBC for whatever reason. Yeah, this is definitely something that is worth looking at. There's definitely times in my life, for example, when I've had to report on an SBC that ETA has already talked about, and while I've dug through all of the things and I've been writing it up to really get a feel of what it is, if I haven't had the device in my hands, ETA Prime has always been a person I've loved going to for that. So, rather than paraphrase the entire video, I'm going to say just go and watch it. If you're not already subscribed to ETA Prime, you're going to really enjoy this channel. It's a rabbit hole that you're going to go back through history and look at various different things that are still available now to buy. Also, yeah, you'll see all of the specs. You'll see how it performs in various different ways with various different kinds of benchmarks. But as I said, also crucially, things like emulating retro games and natively playing certain games as well. Now, the main question that I suppose you would want answered from the ETA Prime video is this thing as powerful as it seems? And the answer in general seems to be yes, because this is an RK3588S board. Now, these rock chip boards are getting more and more popular because it is a very powerful chip, but not all of them are that well documented. But as I said before, it seems, at least for this one, that IndyDroid have done the work. There's various different versions of Linux you can run on it, and there's various different versions. I think there may be 2 different Android versions, but I'm guilty of not really paying that much attention to Android builds because I don't really use it myself. It's probably something I should learn a little bit more about. If you'd like to know the full features, I'm going to leave this link as well to the purchase page down in the bottom. But as a general as a general overview, the RK3588S is an octa-core processor with 4 A76s that goes up to 2.2 or 2.4 gigahertz and 4 Cortex A55s up to 1.8 gigahertz, along with the ARM Mali G610 GPU. And that means various things. It means apparently 8K 60 video processing, although that's still something that's quite hard to actually honestly test. And then system memory is optional from 1 gigabyte up to 16 gigabytes. And it has an eMMC an eMMC on board, which is eMMC 5.1 flash module, which is either 8, 16, 32, or 64, or 128 gigabytes. I'm really struggling speaking, aren't I? Now, of the variants that you can buy, if you want to get the top one, the 16GB RAM, 64GB eMMC, costs $224.95, which is, of course, a lot more than a Raspberry Pi 4. But I think even just the few things that I've shown you in terms of the power that this thing has should show you that this is a different kind of board. Yes, it has the same form factor, but it is a different breed, as it were. The other thing I really like about it that I haven't mentioned so far is just this full-body heatsink. I just think this is such a really interesting and nice idea for a design, because it's still you can still get to all of the GPIO pins. I don't know if there's an image that actually shows that, but there's a cutaway on the side for all of the GPIO pins, and then all of the ports are open as well. But yeah, it's just one absolutely massive heatsink, which I really like the aesthetics of, and of course it probably is very good for dissipating heat. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. If you'd like to know more about it, you can come and have a look at the specs here. I didn't mention that it has Wi-Fi. It does. I didn't mention that it has a real-time clock. It does. It has camera and display interfaces. Come and have a look if it's exactly what you want. But in a sentence, is it more expensive than a Raspberry Pi? Yes. Is it available now? Yes. Can it do everything that a Raspberry Pi 4 can do? Probably. But you're going to be dealing with Linux that isn't Raspbian, and that might mean something to you or not. That has been the podcast for this week. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for all of the support that you continue to show us. As I've mentioned before, giving us a thumbs up or a good rating on your podcast app is kind of a good thing. One thing I've never really asked people to do, because I didn't realize it was something that happened. If you've discovered this podcast and you aren't subscribed to it, if you would consider clicking the subscription button, you don't have to download every episode. I don't have auto download set for any of the podcasts that I listen to, just so I can keep an idea on how much space I have on my phone and all that kind of stuff. But apparently that is an important metric, something I did not know, which I should know given that this is my job. But yes, if you're listening to this in a podcast app, or you log into your browser in any kind of system, subscribing to this podcast apparently has a notable difference. Anyway, with all of that being said, thank you all so much for continually downloading and listening to this podcast. Do get in touch with me at ian@electromaker.io if you have any suggestions, or if you'd like me to cover anything that you think I've missed, or if there are any general subjects you would like to cover on the podcast. I am always open to the idea of replacing certain sections of the main show with podcast-specific things. I just haven't really been given any suggestions for what that might look like. But yes, I think that is everything for this week. So I hope you have a fun, safe, and creative week, and I will chat to you next time.